Well, hello and welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs. We chit chat with different founders across all spectrums, and really get the ahas and the oh shit moments of our life as a founder. Today we have Joey Lowery as our guest. He is CEO and founder of Media Shark. He's that marketing guy on Instagram. Welcome, Joey. Welcome to Hello Chaos.
Hey, no, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So I am excited. I follow you. I love your content. As also a marketing, person, I am putting myself out there, trying to more as a founder. It's very uncomfortable for me, but I love your video clips on your Instagram, and I've been holding a lot of videos similar back because I'm like, and Chandler, who's our producer he can wave. He's like, just post it, just distribute it. I'm like, ugh. But then I see people like you, and I'm like,
it's so funny too, because I think we get in our head about it. I will say, I actually did it as an experiment to start. I wasn't planning on really putting stuff out very often.
Really?
And I had a buddy who's very large on TikTok, we'll say. And I see him posting stuff, and he's very insecure about stuff. You'd never guess it by the stuff he posts.
Yeah.
And me and him were sitting having cigars, and we're just talking nonstop about it. And he was just really complaining about his stuff. But he's getting so many views and, likes and comments and stuff. And finally, I'm just like, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to spend a little bit of money, and I'm going to hire a videographer, and I'm going to do this for about 2 months and go heavy on it. I will say I hated, still to this day, I still won't watch them. Just because I don't like the way I look, I sound, I'll catch something. And, I'd have people come up to me like around here in St. Pete, and they're like, oh, hey, I saw your post. I really liked it. That was a great point or whatever. And I'm thinking like, you guys actually watch it? So I totally understand where you're coming from, where it's like,
it's interesting. And I just did you've seen the trend, especially you do a lot of influencer marketing and stuff of all these founders of like, you need to put your intro, your bio post. And I've been sitting on it for a couple of months, and I posted it. I don't know, when did I post it? Earlier this week. I can't remember. And I mean, I don't have huge numbers or anything, but it was like my most popular post, and people were like DMing me and emailing me and texting me going, remember, that was amazing. That was amazing. I'm like, oh my God, you don't understand how much angst I went through to just to post that. And so it's getting me out of my comfort zone. I think I don't know, what is it like? I just look at myself to go, becoming a founder, which was over a decade ago. I don't know, it made me kind of like crawl back into my skin versus when I was working under somebody else's brand and somebody else's company.
Yep.
I feel like
You
I
had
have
all the
way
ideas.
more confidence to be out there. But ever since I became a founder and started the marketing business back in 2013, I just noticed my self-confidence of really being out there and being so exposed has been one of the biggest challenges. It was actually one of it was a surprising thing for me of I'd never felt that way in my career until I started my business, and then it became, I just want to be behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's so funny like that too, because I was literally speaking to a buddy about this the other day, and I was like, I felt like when I worked for somebody like you're saying, I literally would be out the office the earliest. I still am like that today, but I would do anything I could just to, get sales or learn something.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm so built into the business that there's still that excitement, don't get me wrong, but it's also now it's spread across all these different areas. But I also think that responsibility of having to handle so many other things cuts into that creativity and it's called freestyle of a lifestyle.
Everything is on you. It's, So Joey, tell us, how did you get started? Tell us about your founder journey. How did you start Media Shark? Why did you start Media Shark?
Yeah. So I've been in sales my whole life, and it was one of those things where I got kind of blessed when I was younger. I got to work for an insurance agency and actually got to get my own book of insurance, which I found out later was more like a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
Not knocking it, but it was definitely not quite the you're a business owner kind of thing that I thought it would be. But no, yeah. So I ended up going through kind of a really nasty breakup and an engagement, and I was deciding lived in Missouri at the time, and no college background really. I went 1 year, and I had no idea really what I wanted to do. And so I ended up, basically just packing up everything, took the dogs, and we moved to Arizona, Phoenix particularly, and found a job in
beautiful area. Beautiful area.
hot, very hot. And I thought people were joking when they said you have to buy your dog shoes. And that is a real thing. The pavement is, yeah, it's bad. But yeah, no, I moved out there and ended up getting a job at a marketing agency dealing specifically with programmatic advertising. And obviously I won't name who they are just because of how it ended. But worked for them for about 3 years, and I was really falling in love with it. I was, enjoying it. We were traveling. We were on a tour called Digital Summit, and we'd go to different cities. My boss would talk on stage, and we'd work the booth, meet all these businesses, and I fell in love with the digital marketing aspect.
Yeah.
And what I started realizing was I was highly commissioned on that sales situation, and they had a lot of turnover too as well. But once you kind of started making it, you're good. And I was going down that path for sure. And next thing you know, I started losing some clients. And, it wasn't just one of those things where it's like one or two here or there. Right. It was one of those where it's the same problem across multiple salespeople and no one's addressing it. And I also was more of the younger person, or more of one of the younger people on the team. Yeah. Wasn't married and didn't have any type of real commitment. So in my mind, I'm a little bit more on the, let me push the boundaries with the bosses.
Right.
A little bit. And, I spent a couple months digging into it. And then I was actually at a digital summit in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we all went out one night, like we typically do the night before the conference. And I had a little bit of liquid courage, and I was very confident in what I did all the research on. And I just brought up all this stuff that I thought we were doing, technically illegal, in my opinion, definitely ethically wrong. And we were basically manipulating, in my opinion, the back end. So the dashboard reported something very different. Which
I'm going to tell you, so I don't know what year this was, but, I've been in digital marketing since the beginning. Like I was one of the first digital media buyers in 98.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Like date myself there. But yeah, we've seen such an influx of what I call bad actors. Mm-hmm. At first I thought it was very inexperienced people, but we've kind of having to clean up things that companies like that have done to brands. It's like, oh my gosh, this is purposeful. This isn't inexperience. This is intentional.
Yeah, they hide it.
And it's exploded. It's really harmed the marketing industry.
Oh,
as far as like trust. Like when I talk to CEOs and business owners, and we talk to dozens of founders every week, and that's like, oh, I mistrust marketing, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's like the Wolf of Wall Street now. It really is.
Yes.
And that's what kind of happened with them. They literally on the spot the next day, they literally were like, hey, you're fired. And I'm like, what? Because I was very blown away by it, because I was bringing in a lot of business for them. I was, had a strong book of business.
Right. But you uncovered the
I can't
the
say
weak part.
I figured it out, let's say, but I got a pretty good guess I did.
Yeah.
And so I'm fired on the spot, and I remember I think it was probably 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and I literally just go right to the bar. And I just remember just sitting there, and I didn't drink anything. I'm just literally just had tears in my face, because I'm like, I thought this was going to be
devastated. Yeah.
And I was so pissed off, and I was like, and I won't name who the company is, but they're named after an animal. And I'm like, you know what? Screw this.
I know who that is. I know exactly who you're talking about.
I am going to name my company. I'm going to create a company to compete with them. But my animal will eat their animal. And so Media Shark is exactly how that started. And it was more out of spite. I didn't think it would take off. And then within a year, we actually landed Sprint and Boost as a client. And it's definitely been up and downhill since then.
Yeah, that's right.
So I know everybody's like,
we do go through our highs and our lows. Agency business is hard. I mean, and I think I don't know about you. I've talked to a lot of, I'm in a forum with a lot of agency owners, and about our same size, whether we're in a niche of like industrial or, B2B, B2C, or DTC or whatever. But we're all kind of feeling this, like I said, this influx of scammers and bad actors, and this mistrust in our industry. And, we're like, just ride the wave. Like the good people are going to prevail.
Yeah. Well, and, and I literally tell people this all the time, especially when I'm talking to businesses, it is the Wolf of Wall Street, and you don't know if you're dealing with a pink sheet or a blue chip stock company. And at the same time, you don't really know who's told you the truth and who hasn't. That's
the feedback we keep getting. And I'm like, and I keep going, they're like, well, how do I know the difference? I said, because we're having this conversation. I'm asking you questions that these other people have never asked you, or I'm uncovering the disconnections that they haven't, there is a difference in our language.
Absolutely. Well, and and even on the confidence side, I always tell clients, I'm like, end of the day, if you think that, and I know we're not specifically, but I go, if you look at these third-party tools that will usually analyze websites, whether it's SEO, ads, whatever it is,
Right.
you know, the information is going to speak for itself. You determine and interpret it how you want, but we'll look at what they've done, what we're doing, our past clients, their past clients, whatever, and then you come the summer you want to. But end of the
Right.
day, there's so many, I call them 23-year-old divorce coaches out there, never been married, and they are the divorce coaches, and they have no background in this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that everybody has to be, the master at it, but
Right.
there's just but also there's so many agencies now that they know
Yeah.
they can build in margins, and it's a high turnover type business.
Yeah. Yeah. People are selling a product, not really a service.
Yeah.
Of,
And marketing
let's-
is so much a service than it is a product.
That's right. That's right. And that's what we told them. Like, if somebody's not caring about how do we move your business forward, they've just sold you, an SEO product or some kind of digified product just to like give you clicks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's all it is. It's like, hey, we'll guarantee something, and it's like, well, you didn't guarantee me any type of return, just numbers on a dashboard.
Right. Right. So, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it goes back to when, getting fired and, starting this up. I want to say, honestly, it was about a year afterwards. We were doing pretty well, and I was able to actually join as a sponsor to the Digital Summit Tour and became a speaker. Yeah. And the company that was, let me go, they end up throwing a huge fit and, basically threw a fit saying that they wouldn't join Digital Summit any longer or sponsor them if I was able to come on, which, that's wonder why you'd be so nervous.
Right.
And that by that time, let's call it the hotness for how I felt about them had cooled off a lot. But it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, you really can play this game. And it was one of those opportunities where it's like, I got to go back. I got to speak on the same stages. And I actually now got to have a booth at the same conference that technically fired me years prior. And
Right.
I got to go on a speaking tour for about 2 years because of that. And I think that was one of those highlights because it's just like, just being able to push through is one thing, but being able to do it on a different scale than just representing yourself, but actually a company, a brand, and brands, and getting to be seen as an authority when years prior, I questioned everything. I was fired and, sitting at a bar wondering what's next.
Right. Oh, that is amazing. That's a great so you need to celebrate that. If you haven't celebrated, you need to make sure that is your,
I did.
that is your highlight. That is your, that's a big win.
Yeah.
Huge win. What's been as you started and started to scale, like you said, you're representing now a company, you've got people. What's been the most challenging part?
I think two parts. I think, and they say it's so obvious, and I think a lot of founders agree 100% with this. It's learning to wear different hats and understanding and taking a humble step back and realizing I don't have these certain skill sets, and whether I need to up myself or I need to bring in somebody else, a team member, or even a different company to help me with these areas. That was one of those things of just realizing like I can't do it all. And I still struggle with that a lot. That's just something that I think as a founder or, just business owner in general, you really kind of wear on your sleeves a little bit. That's probably the biggest one. And I also think too, it's learning to fall in love with your business again. I think in the beginning, you love every aspect of it. Everything's exciting. And then, I think we're year 5 now, something like that. And there's days not saying I don't want to, turn on the business, but there's days I'm definitely not in love with it, if not weeks sometimes. And making sure I stay in love with the business just as much as it was in the beginning.
That's right. I've had to fall in love with not just the business, but also marketing in general. Like, why? What's my why? Like, what's my purpose? Is this still a good fit? And I think we all kind of go through that and then you have to no, I have a gift. It's somebody, when I did that bio post, somebody was like, it is your mutant superpower. Like, you can get in there and find and identify the friction in any business and come up with the solutions pretty affordably and efficiently. But whether it's in branding, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in advertising, and they're like, that is like a mutant thing.
Well, that's what actually, so it's funny. I was just speaking to my girlfriend about this yesterday, and she was like, I'm very passionate about SEO, and I've been diving down a lot of pretty rabbit holes about semantic SEO and structures and stuff like that. And it's not that everybody loves this stuff. And I told her, I was like, it's to me, it's like art. Some people can pick up a pen and pencil and start drawing, and it turns out amazing. And the more they hone in on their craft, the more beautiful and more excellent they get at what they do. But it's definitely not something that you just pick up. But there is definitely something that there's a passion for it, and some people are really good at it. And then there's others that get by. But, this is definitely one of those areas where it takes a very passionate person to really, stay ahead of the game for sure.
Absolutely. So do you think there's any myths, like before you started the company, where did you have kind of this is how it's supposed to go, and then you got into it and you're like, that is a myth and I need to bust that myth?
I know this is going to sound bad. I think it was easier than it should have been. It was easier than I thought.
Really?
I really do.
Very good.
But and I mean that lightly, because I think every business is different for sure. Having my back against the wall and knowing that it's this or nothing, that was they call it Tony Robbins burning your boat situation. So I don't think that, I had to worry about a family situation. There's other things that I think are outside factors for sure that applied to that. But I will say, knowing the marketing aspect was key going into it. I knew how to run the ads if I needed to. I knew how to build the websites, to do the SEO. It's just stuff I'd learned. So being able to create a digital storefront day one, and I realized after that, it's like, how do I just drive traffic? How do I get people in the door? How do I get people on the phone calls and demos? That's why I think it was so much easier than I think people give credit to. And I think the myth is like, how do I start? It's like, damn, just jump,
Just jump into it. That's right. Just do it.
And I don't recommend this necessarily, but I mean, shit, you can go to Fiverr, you can go to YouTube University, and you can put a website up in 2 days. Not saying it's going to be great, it's what you want. I don't recommend doing it, but there are ways to jump in to get you going and moving, and then it turns into a numbers game, and you can quantify the whole project basically down to numbers, and then you know exactly what you need to do to keep it going, and
exactly.
Improve.
Exactly. So, do you think has there been like aha moments along your way of like, ooh, I mean, maybe the milestone of like, I can be on this stage. Was that like the biggest aha kind of breakthrough of, I am legit, I am here, this is it? Or did you have any others?
So I will say this. I don't ever feel like I'm legit 100%. I think it's funny because we had a situation. I got to speak at it. I mean, I don't think there are maybe 2,000 people in the room, and I got to, give about a 35-minute talk. Very nervous, I'll say that. And it's funny, people come up to you afterwards and they're like, man, I just love your talk and things like that. And I'm thinking like, I am so sorry because I was stuttering over here and I don't know. In my mind, I'm thinking like, I need to apologize.
Like, I failed.
And you never know how people interpret things, but you get in your head about stuff. I think the big aha moment for sure was, when I realized that it's not just about, just doing business, the connections that you make with it and what that can lead to. That's where I'm like, man, you can almost double down on your own efforts in just connections and growing and putting yourself out there that you just don't know what's going to happen. That to me was very like eye-opening, because everybody's always like, just call more, do more events. And it's like, man, but if you really were focusing and building the relationships the correct way and the right way, these people need people to refer to, because they don't, going back to what we're saying, the Wolf of Wall Street, you don't trust a lot.
You got to build that trust.
Yeah.
How did you get into because it's really hard to get into like the speaking engagement? Like, is that something that you focused on first to kind of build that rapport, or how, like, what was that approach and process of how did you get into that?
Yeah. So I think it's a pay to play in the beginning. I kind of seen that too. It's finding the conferences that are willing to have you, niching down. So what I did in the beginning was I just literally got on LinkedIn. I followed a couple people. I grew my Instagram. I think you have to have a platform that you show that you're existing. Now I think it's getting harder because somebody, and I say this very respectfully to people, but I'm like, you could have a girl in a bikini talking about something and she's getting thousands of likes or, followers. And you got a guy over here who sends somebody to Antarctica to get a cup of snow, Mr. Beast, whatever. And you're like the level of, I don't want to use the word intelligence, it's not the right word, but the level of how easy it is to get into this now has become so easy that everybody's doing it. So which makes it also very complicated and harder to get seen and get noticed. But I think you kind of have to become an industry expert in one area on whether video, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, if not all, Facebook to a point, but if not all three or four. So I used that. I got my Instagram up to 80-some thousand followers. I think a lot of that shit, to be honest with you, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't know how it's that high. But
I think once you get like at a certain point, it just starts feeding onto each other.
It did. And when I was speaking, it helped a lot because I was running ads, doing stuff like that. And I was definitely putting out a ton of videos at the time. And I pulled that back because I got burnt out on the speaking. But yeah, I would say getting there, and I had the followers to show that I had a count. And then I had the brands that I could say, hey, we've worked with them. The hard thing too, I think, that people don't think about on the speaking side is, they want somebody, the people who are hiring the speakers or doing the speaking, they're not the same people as the coordinators for the events. And so
Okay.
you have a sales department that wants you to sign up as a sponsor and speak. And then there's the coordinators who are the speaker, finding my speakers, finding this for the shows. And that was really interesting to me because I figured out once I got in as a sponsored speaker, then I could get in with the actual speakers themselves in that
Gotcha.
group of people. So I think it's a pay to play in the beginning, unless it's like, you can do a TED talk or you do something where you can get a part of, kind of like a Facebook group of speakers.
Right.
But I want
Which
to
is
say
how
this.
we connected, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I think people overestimate it too much. If I was to do this over again and go, I want to get on stages here in St. Pete, Florida or Tampa, Florida around marketing, I would find very small shows and ask them how I could do panels. And I think it goes back to that networking thing. Everybody wants to talk on stage and they want to sell something or push something.
Right.
And they're
I
always
just want to educate. I want to
Yeah.
get people more comfortable with marketing. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
But I think it's just niching
Interesting.
down. Instead of sending out a ton I just was Digital Summit specific because I wanted to basically co-in.
That's
and
right. You
hey,
need to
screw
be
you
on the
guys,
same
guess who's
stage
here?
with the shit talker.
Yeah, and like the Traffic and Conversions was a conference that I got asked to speak at if I was willing to sponsor, and that's your other negative though. So when you go pay to play, they know you paid in the past, so they're
Yeah.
like, oh, would Media Shark and Joey like to talk? And I'm like, no, just Joey, and they're like, oh well, we have other people that are going to pay, and we don't know if we need somebody in that this area too. So I think that's one of those hard things too. It's like I think just getting connected, but making sure that you're so niche down that you can find the right conference that allows somebody to come in or play off your
That is some
characteristics.
good advice.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest, you said that because you knew marketing and you could pop up, the website, you knew how to drive traffic, you had all kind of like the science side and some of that art side of getting your brand out there. What was your big oh shit, like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Yeah. Oh man. So we talked about this week, last month, last year, COVID. No. So I'll kind of say a funny one was, and this is not the oh shit moment, but this was one where I realized that you have to play by the rules. And I always tell everybody,
What rules are we playing by?
right? No. So we were at a conference and we were in Pennsylvania, I believe. No, sorry, it was New York. And it was during COVID. It was like kind of right after the end of the heat of it. And we were at a conference and they were very picky about the mask situation, obviously. But while
They're
you
really
ate,
picky on the what?
and they wanted you to keep it on your ears and lower it below your chin while you're eating. And it was so
What?
hard. Oh yeah, this was one of those things where I bucked up thinking I'm the business owner. No, my teams we're away from everybody. We've also traveled up here too. So we've been in airplanes, we've been doing all this stuff. You're hosting the conference. I kind of bucked up a little bit, and we almost got kicked off the rest of the tour that year because I was defending myself and the team for basically. I mean, we still had one on our ear, but like that was kind of those one oh shit moments. Like just because I think I'm the guy when it comes to little things, I don't have that much power when it's a lot of stuff. So that was one of those oh shits that like, okay, am I approaching this the right way with who I'm dealing with? It also there was a very long conference, so it was we were all pretty burnt out by that time. So when we get told like we're going to be warned about wearing our mask while eating, and I probably said some things I shouldn't have, but that was a funny one, I'll say. But the big one that I think really shocked me, I'll say, was kind of the kick to the groin was we had a very large client that was with us, spending multiple six figures a month. They actually became very close friends with us too as well, and so it was one of those that I didn't see them going anywhere anytime soon. And, it was one of those things where one day I actually was at a ClickFunnels, big conference here in Orlando, and I get a call from one of the head managers, and I noticed that there's three people on the call. And this was one of those where she called my cell phone, wasn't one of those like conference call things.
Right.
And I looked down, I could just hear noises in the background, and she's like, yeah, hey, we had a couple other people on the call, and we're going to have to stop using you guys. We had a new VP come in, and he wants to take everything to his old company that he was using prior. So no choice. Yeah.
Because that's the game that we, that is new people come in and they want to bring their own.
Yeah.
Well,
and that was one of the
kingdom fiefdom.
shittiest things because there was no talks. There was no like, hey, can I have the team put together reports? It was
Right.
this other company that came in that, not even that they could undercut us. They just could do everything. They were such a penny pinching company that they could come in and do stuff at different prices that we couldn't touch. But they also had teams that made it look like they could do very unique things. I spent so much time going into them, down the road. Cause I'm like, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? Like, how do we more or less put up that umbrella policy around us? But what was interesting though was that was the moment where it clicked, where it's like, you have to have, and it's great having whale clients, but you have to have fish. And if you don't have fish clients that are just
you got to make sure that you're spread. I call it like, look at your book of business like as on a pyramid of. You might have to have one, but that one can't be more than like 80% of your business. Like it will kill your business.
They were in the 40 to 50 percentile for us at the moment, just because we had so much opportunity with margin in certain areas that they were doing with running ads, from the SEO, from just a lot of it was even consulting. And they're a Fortune company. They're huge, and for them, it was like we knew every department. We knew everything. They've been with us for 3 years. And it kind of got to the thing of like, all right, I think everybody needs to take a step back and go, what's my real life cycle average? What's industry average? And assume that, just to be careful, that you need to be aware that your clients, whoever they are, wherever they're at, do have an expiration date.
Right.
And there's forces that you can't control. And so we should have been better at being like, okay, we're at a 3-year rule. Most don't make it past a year and a half or 2. We should be prepared that this could be a potential opportunity. Best case scenario, they never leave. That's awesome. But having that hindsight or that awareness, I think, was kind of that, oh shit, like we didn't do anything wrong, but we also didn't, maybe keep up, or, whatever caused that, to conspire. But that was one of those oh shit moments where it's like, okay, we gotta make sure we're always feeding, but let's take a step back and make sure we're going after enough fish and not focusing on whales all the time.
Yeah, no, that is smart, especially with a service business, because you kind of look to go, okay, do we use all of our tools? Is there anything we could change? But you're right. There are some things of like, you could be putting together the best reports. You could be, performing, hitting all the marks. But if it becomes, you don't have that relationship with the person, and somebody else, everyone kind of wants to bring in their comfort level.
So it was funny because the manager, and I obviously can't say who the company is, but the main lady who I got to be really good friends with, I actually ended up flying her out with her mom down here, which definitely was frowned upon because obviously that's not something you can do. But we also became really close friends. I knew her when her dog died. She called me crying. Like, I was very close with this company, and they definitely helped put us on the map too, because they were with the old.
They legitimized. They were like a big brand that.
Well, they followed me over too, so that was one of those where. I had already told her that I think this is what's going on when I was working for the company, because I also wanted her to protect her ass, because I'm like, I don't want her to get in trouble for anything. And when I got fired, she called me about a week later, and I'd never stole clients, nothing like that. That was not one of those things. My laptops turned over immediately, and my emails in that moment, like within 2 minutes.
They made you walk out with nothing.
Oh, they had security actually. It was funny, which was interesting, but. She followed me over, and that was awesome. But so I had literally so much trust in things with them. And she goes, hey, I want to forward you what our first month, second month reports look like with them, just so you can see what they're doing. It's something you guys may want to look at if you have larger clients. And we appreciate that a lot. Turns out it's a white label dashboard, and I was on the speaking tour at the time with the guy who owned the company that does the dashboards for them. And I was able to basically get access to their dashboards for free. Not there as a client, but be able to use theirs.
Did you guys implement then that as like the?
We did, but by that time it's too late. For the
client. But you know what? But the relationship you had, I'm sure if she ever left that company, she would do the same thing of like, I'm bringing Joey with me.
Yeah. Oh, she already told me, she's like, yeah, if ever happens, and she'll hit me up randomly. She's like, will you look at this on our analytics? And I love to. I was like, sure. You were there for me when I didn't have anything to stand on, and I'm absolutely will be there for you if I can, help you in any way, shape, or form.
That's right.
So that one definitely, I'll say I shit the bed a little bit, especially when you get
that's
the
like
call.
When you go in the pant, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to survive?
Yep. Well, and that was one of those where I was like, I told all the employees like the next day, I'm like, hey, don't come in, just take the day off. Like, and I was like game plan day, just like, let's restart this. What if we were at ground zero again? Which we weren't, but it was just okay.
But it felt that way.
Oh, it just it felt like someone died.
So do you? You seem to be a pretty laid back guy or whatever. How do you deal with stress and like, do you have routines and disciplines that you've kind of put in place to help with with your mindset of just keep going?
Yeah. So I always joke, everybody says they have ADD, ADHD, and I do, and I will say it's the superpower gift. It's the worst when it comes to paying things on time and remembering that I was supposed to go to a wedding yesterday, and then 3 hours before the wedding, I'm like, girlfriend calls,
like, oh.
ready? Oh, no. Also, who gets married in early afternoon on a Thursday in a work week? But that was not my complaint.
You're like, but no judging, no judging.
Yes, I will be happy that you're getting married. And so I think that's one of the big misunderstandings, I think, as founding people, entrepreneurs, high sales, or I call it the high tick type environment.
Yeah.
The emotional journey and stress is something that they do not talk about. The highs and the lows. It's almost like, getting in and off drugs, or at least what I assume it's like.
It's like the dopamine high, right? Like the adrenaline, you go way high when you get these wins.
Yeah. And it's like, and people don't understand it. You have days where you're on top of the world and you have days that you're just crawling through the mud. And, making sure I stayed away from alcohol. Excuse me.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the business, I definitely found myself going and enjoying those types of substances quite a bit.
Really?
It was so easy. It was just where I'm making more money than I've made in the past. The clients are great. Everybody's happy. I'm landing. I'm going to speak at these tours, whatever. And it was like, okay, well, let's go.
You're getting treated like a rock star.
In a sense, yeah. And the business was there supporting it. But I found out too, it's like, the celebrations don't feel any different, 2 years later. And, there's moments where, the drinking and stuff like that. So that was one of those areas where I was like, okay, like watching what I put in my body, keeping the mind sharp, I think is one of those things where it was very eye opening to me, because I could tell the difference in clarity when I'm like, okay, I'm not drinking right now. I'm also eating very healthy. I'm consistently exercising. More importantly, I'm absorbing information that's helping me grow as a person.
That's right.
I'm very strong in my religious beliefs as a Christian, and getting back to foundations around church and things like that was massive for me personally. Finding encouragement in other outside factors. But I think when it comes down to like daily stuff, I definitely think it's getting up early, reading, and trying to at least go jogging 2 to 3 times a week. Anything I can do to make my mind just
well, you got to get that, like your body, the blood, flowing and focus, right?
Yeah, and
focus and release.
Oh, exactly. Well, and I think there's so many issues around the psychology, mental toughness, and mental struggles that go into owning a business. That spouses, relationships, family, even your internal, in your head situation. Nobody prepares you for that.
No, and I think that's the topic that we talk about the most, I think, on the show. Of you hear that same theme of it's preparing you, or it's challenging you in a much different way than if you were in corporate, like working for somebody
there's times
else.
I tell people, I'm
like, I talk to somebody, I'm like, I think every founder talks about the self-discovery and then the acceptance, but it's going into some kind of spiritual path, whether it's in a, religious or some kind of faith-based, program to really kind of get recentered, refocused.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's removing the I element out of it. It's not being like, I am suffering, I'm going through this. It's not necessarily we either, but it's that it's okay. Like, this is a part of the journey.
Right.
It's okay that
That's
I'm failing. Like, I remember during the business, we went through some really tough financial times where we're losing clients. Definitely, COVID was actually weirdly good for us because everything was digital. But the aspect of, once it came back and things were getting back to normal, we didn't keep up with some of the moving times, and we took a break on some of the tours and stuff like that. And there was one month where I'm like, man, I feel like salespeople are making more than I'm making. And, I was really kind of beating myself up, which is great. I mean, that's what you want. But mentally, I'm thinking like, gosh, I wish I didn't have this business kind of. I was just living like they did, But I'm also forgetting all the stuff that's like led me to be in those positions at times. This was just one of those little values I was hitting. And, I look at that and I'm just thinking like, if I sit there and I ponder and I wonder all about the I situation and how whatever I'm feeling, it destroys you. And I think learning to get out of your head is one of the key things as a founder that you should focus on right off the bat. It's learning to, one, be humble. I think that's number one. But two is really making sure that if I'm starting to have thoughts about issues, I get them addressed, whether it's, joining groups, listening to stuff like podcasts like this, or, some people even go into like a business therapy or doing therapy stuff.
That's right. Get a coach, get somebody, you need a cheerleader, but and you might need to have multiple people.
Oh, yeah.
But also a community too of you've got to find a safe space. One that somebody will give you that space to be able to express yourself, but also to feel like you're, cause it's hard as a founder and a business owner to find people that share in those same challenges and either can just relate. Cause that was like I think aha of like, I don't have anybody to share this with. And I entered a room, it was like 2018. It was a bunch of, female founders. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. Yeah. I'm not alone.
And I think it's so. I actually was at a conference. This was unique for me. It was more of a women's conference focus, and we actually did the ads for them. And I'm like, "Do you guys mind if I come?" And of course they're like, it's not like you can't come. And I'm like, okay, we'll just.
We're like, do you want to come?
Yeah, that's more like in my mind. I'm like, women only conference. I can't go. I'm running your ads, but I know some of these speakers. I love to just listen.
Right.
And it was so cool to see, all these women that were a part of this business, group and this network that that they're doing, but also see how niched down that they are with their own, like they broke off into like just struggles that you had, and you broke off into these groups. And of course I didn't join in on that because I just obviously letting the conference do their thing. And I'm thinking like, how powerful is this that, you walk into a room, and at least this is how I was interpreting it when I first walked in, is that you feel like you're in your own head, your own problems, all this stuff, and you're by yourself in your own thoughts. And the next thing you know, within an hour, 2 hours on this conference, you're now in a group of 5 to 7 other individuds that are all in the same boat you are.
That are all feeling the same. Yeah, it is. I've been to several, and that's why I said it was such a, I'd already been in business 5-6 years, but I just was so alone and isolated. And then I walk into this room like, it just was a huge, like it was my aha. It was an enlightening moment. It sparked a journey for me. And that was one of the reasons I started the Orange Whip and Hello Chaos was really out of that, of the power of community, and finding those connections, are like, to me, it is by far the most important thing, that if you started a company, you've got to find those connections. Mm-hmm. And you've got to find, whether it's a group of people or if it's just an individual coach, or so, because you're going to need, you need to feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And having somebody to make space for you, or for you to express, or for you to feel comfortable, and like you said, to normalize. Mm-hmm. It's okay. You're going to go through these things. You need to know it is okay for you to think this way, but maybe you need to transform that mindset, because it will help you grow.
Well, and that's the thing that I thought was interesting too. So I joined some coaching groups in Arizona. Actually, I flew back. They're part of the ClickFunnels community, and I'm not a ClickFunneler. I'm obsessed with the guy. I am not a funnel hacker, dude. I don't build funnels. We don't touch that stuff. I know I'm actually wearing one of the shirts. They also have really soft shirts, so I'm a softie when it comes to that stuff. But I got to be really good friends with a lot of the big people that are part of the ClickFunnels community. And I ended up signing up for some of the coaching, and I even joined Russell's thing. And I'm pretty sure I was the only one in this, whatever the group that I was paying to be in, that didn't build funnels. I gave no shits about funnels. I wanted to see your process. I want to know how you run your business. How do you do your ads? Like, I even picked up clients from it just because, they were funnel hackers, but weren't ad people or SEO or whatever. But it was so interesting because I joined this group, and I want to say it was like 15,000, 16,000 for the year. And I joined it, and they met up twice a year. And I realized when I got there, I'm like, I am, as an agency, bigger than the coaches themselves that are hosting this agency thing. Right. At least my agency is. And it was so interesting. And when I first walked in, I'm like, because we kind of had our numbers talk, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should be here. And as the day went on for us, anyway, I started realizing, like, oh my gosh, I have so much I need to be learning from all these guys and women, that I walked in thinking you need to be the biggest one in the room, and if you're too big, you shouldn't fit in. And I'm like, sitting over here, I also have this little seat compared to the big thrones they're sitting in other areas of the business, whether it's management, time management, or self-care, or just processes and stuff like that. And it was so interesting to me, because like, I think people get so caught up that I don't need coaching. It's like, and not even coaching. I don't need groups. It's like,
Right. And a lot of that, like you said, you got to take the eye out, and you've got to be, you got to be humble and know that you don't know everything, and continuous learning is, I think it's like I've
name of the game.
kind of used a theme of I've got to learn, I've got to unlearn, and then I've got to relearn. And it's just this continuous cycle over.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, it's like, it's hard because what sometimes you fell in love with in the business isn't there anymore. You know, I used to think that, man, being able to land new client deals, hey, we just hit 5 customers, we hit 10, we have the residual income, we're residually over 6 figures, we did $1 million in a month, like all these little milestones we hit. And then I realized, I'm like, well, what's the next milestone? And then where I realized, do I just build this out so we can sell it one day? Like, what do I fall in love with? And that's where I decided, for me personally, actually, that's why I started doing podcasts. I was like, I'm going to take the we out of, or the media shark out of me a little bit, and just go how do I build Joey up a little bit? And I started falling in love with that. Not because I want to be on stage, but like you said, the educating aspect. I will say I'm probably one of those people, I really hate having my photo taken. I hate being on video.
I know we talked about that. I'm like, it's the worst for me.
My girlfriend will be like, "Oh, you look nice in that one. The other one, you looked a little bit heavier." But I'm like, "What? Do not tell me that." Like like little things like that. And in your head, you just start thinking about it. I will say this, and I believe this, if anybody's listening, if you're a founder or anybody, you should just be putting out content, no matter what, just because you don't know what kind of gold mine you're sitting on right now. In 5 years, and you have, or even 3 years, and you have over hundreds of videos on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, Instagram. I have a video right now, it's 60,000 views. I filmed it in I'll send it to you actually, but I filmed it in a garage in my old house right after I got fired. And I look so much younger too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I clearly have aged as a.
You're like, I look good.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, I don't have wrinkles or anything.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah, no, there's no stress yet to this guy.
It's like an actor that's using, a headshot from 1995.
Yeah. I'm like, that's okay. Yeah. But what was funny though was that video, I actually had somebody reach out recently. He's a CEO. He wouldn't tell me what CEO or where he's at, but he goes, "Hey, I watched your video on programmatic advertising. I liked your simple explanation. Do you mind if I get on a call with you just to go over some stuff? We're not interested in hiring you guys at agency, but I want to make sure that I understand how programmatic works." Yeah. This video is 5 years old, and he still found it. And I'm like, it just reinforces. It's like, man, you just don't know what could happen if you just put yourself out there. So you might as well take.
Oh, that is good. That is good advice. No. All right. So Joey, if you could pick 2 things about your business today that you could change, like instant, what 2 things would you change and why?
Man, the changing part. I think if I could change it, I think I would have, instead of making our business broad, as we service a lot of people and we focus on certain products, or services, like we'll call it. Yeah. I would have niched down in the beginning, where we knew we worked with certain types of companies. I think the growth of knowing and being in the trenches would have been a lot further and faster, instead of going broad and trying to be a mile wide with an inch deep instead of being an inch deep or inch wide with a mile depth. That was one. I mean, we're fine, and I'm happy we are where we're at. But that's one of those things I always think back. I'm like, if I tell people now, I'm like, man, you really got to go, a mile deep in your person, your product, your who you're serving, and you don't serve everybody. That's one of those things. Right.
If you target everybody, you target no one.
Exactly. Yeah. This is sniper rifle. This is not spray and pray. And you pray a lot. I'll say that as an owner. I'm praying all the time. But I think the other thing I'd change is, learning about like NLP more, like the neuro-linguistic programming, knowing how people think, why they think, not for sales purposes, but because I need a better understanding of my team, people I'm dealing with, taking a step back and being like, removing the I, how does she or he respond to these circumstances? What motivates them? What demotivates them? How do they respond to me? And, how do I become more of a Rosetta Stone fluent language, emotional speaker to my employees and the people I deal with?
Right. We're in the people business.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big aha. I mean, it's, you always kind of know that, but I went through the same kind of journey a little bit of, whoa, I thought I was this type of a leader, and I had to go through some some learnings for myself. But yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
how do you lead people? How do you make people feel more accepted? How do you coach and educate and train when people, across different spectrums of styles?
I hate saying this too. How to fire correctly.
And
that was
I'm
one.
still
where
learning
like,
that one.
I'm like, I didn't know. I never said this, but I'm like, I hate you. Like, because I had an employee cost me $20,000 in a possible lawsuit because of his data issue, and who deals with it? Media Shark and Joey, and I'm like, very politely, like, we are done. We went through the process, but dealing with, the HR aspect of what you can't say, dealing with different types of people, gender aspects, all the way from, she's having a rough day, he's lost his mom, like all these aspects of,
You
learning.
have to be really empathetic as a founder and business owner, walk in their shoes, but also put processes and systems in place to also create boundaries to protect the company.
We don't go out drinking when we go, to like a digital summit, and the guys and girls are separated. If we do, that was one thing when we did an Airbnb. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast, but keeping the guys on one side of the house and the girls had their upstairs room, and we stayed. The guys had the kind of a bottom half of this house, but it had like an outhouse where they could sleep outside, and it was great. Everybody had a great time, but making sure like, hey, this is not a college party. Like this is we're here
this
to
is
work.
not MTV.
Yeah, we're here to do a job, and we're going to go home, but. If we do a great job, I'm happy to, do the dinners and do the fun stuff. But, we're here to.
We got to protect everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
People business. We're in the people business.
We definitely are.
All right. So if we met a year from now, and what will we be celebrating?
A year from now. That's a good one. I'd like to have completed. I will have completed, but I'm on a roll right now to do 100 podcasts, and I'm in the 70s right now. It's
oh my gosh! When did you start this goal?
November. No, not November. Sorry, August. So
of this year.
Yeah.
You've done almost 70 podcasts between. God, I thought I was doing good. I mean, I record these every week, but I'm a guest.
But
I've done like 30 this year, and I thought that was good.
Yeah, but you're also interviewing and having the pod. I don't have to worry about that side. I just show up and get to talk.
I was like, 70?
Yeah, I want to have that.
Since August, that's amazing.
Well, and so,
okay.
but also, so I go back to it too. I was like, I'm going to put myself out there, and I also thought too, I'm like, if I ever want to do this and I want to get better at speaking and just being more on my delivery, why not, whether good, bad, or indifferent? Whether your podcast had one follower and it was your mom or your dad, all the way to, your a top-rated whatever podcast.
That's right.
I'm gonna do it. So that was one. I will say this. I'd like to have landed probably one of the speaking gigs at some of the conferences I really follow. That's been one of those big things where there's a couple ones I really care about that I found myself.
You're like, I want to be on that stage.
Yeah, and not just for the cloud or the aspect. I really want to know that I'm up here because I bring the value that was like me listening. In that not too long ago.
Well, we're gonna manifest it right now.
Let's do it.
We're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna check in with you next year. We're gonna see.
Deal.
You're like, yeah. I've done 200 podcasts, and now I'm on these 5 stages.
Well, let me reverse the question if you don't mind. What would be yours?
What would be mine?
Yeah.
If we celebrated a year from now, I would want for bright side. I would want to have acquired. We've got a list of 30 companies that we would like to bring on board.
Yeah.
Target companies, and then on Orange Whip, 10 sponsors for the digital zines and the podcast. So that would be like ultimate celebration.
Okay, well, I want to follow up. I'm going to put on my calendar. I swear I'm going to put on my calendar.
Well, we're going to and then personally, like you said, I'm trying to put myself out there. If I can launch these video series that I have pocketed, I just need to do it.
Yep.
Just need to put it out there. Yeah. I was like this week was my baby step of I got my bio, the intro, I was like, okay, I'm getting the momentum. I think I'm going to publish some of those videos this week. Get it done before the end of the year.
There you go.
But yeah, hopefully by also next year, you'll see a lot more of me out there.
There we go. Yeah.
This time next year. That will be,
have a coffee in the
we'll
morning.
be celebrating that.
Oh my gosh, I know her. Look how many followers. Like,
Look at me. And oh, look, and she's like 30 pounds lighter too. Whoa, go. I'm on a health journey too. So we're going to put it all out there. I'm going to, not going to be in a bikini or anything out there, but you will see that I have lost weight.
there we go.
Next year.
I'm in that journey right now, and I will say it's a grumpy journey, especially
It
during the
is.
holidays.
We're working through it.
Yep.
I've been doing a lot of stuff. This was my year of like entry. 2025 is going to be my year of like digging in and going high. So we're on the path. We're walking down the path. That's what I'm not running yet. I'll run in 2025, but this year was like the walking at the path. All right. So if you could sum up your entrepreneurial journey in one word, what would that word be and why?
I'd actually, I when you first mentioned that, I literally was like, man, there's just so many words that describe certain things and certain, moments, but it's not even a feeling. I'd say it's adventurous.
Adventurous. All
Yeah.
right.
I think it's one of those things where I didn't see what was going to happen next. I'm always down for the ride, but I think, and you know this too as well, we learn and get to be involved in so many cool things as marketers and experts in this area that not only are we applying it to our businesses, we get insights to all types of different businesses and different stuff. And I'm always dabbling in some other side business that I shouldn't be involved in because I don't have time for it. But I'm
We
always doing
always
something.
get pulled in.
Yeah, I decided I was going to build a CBD bath bomb business the other day, and I'm like, nope, we won't. I'll give this. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do this. It's not our business, but just adventurous because I just think the opportunities and the road is so unknown, but also so gloriously hard and rewarding. But we just don't know what's going to be next. But it's one of those things.
Trailblazer.
I'm smiling about it. I'll say that.
I love it, and I will say so. We've had like 1,000 or so founders. This word, we have not had a repeat word.
Really? No way.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Even though a lot of the same themes of like our ahas, our oh shits, like all of those, what do we find reward? A lot of the same themes that we hear over and over, but everyone has described their journey in a different way.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's why I love, I love asking it because we have not had a repeat yet. And I love that we haven't had a repeat. It just shows the spectrum.
Cool page to put on if you have a podcast website to put the founder's words, and like every founder that you've had on here just says, hey, this is my word.
We should just do a clip of like the word.
Yeah. Just one little second and just that would be really cool.
I'm looking at Chandler. Chandler's like, all right, we can do it. We can get it.
That's freaking awesome.
Might be something we work on over the holiday break.
Hey, by next year. By next year.
That's right. But it's I love it. So so now here's another. If you had to look forward for your, the next 5 years, for the chapter, what would that word be for the next 5-year chapter?
Accomplished.
This is the first time I've asked this question, so we have Chandler's like, what? Well, that's a curveball question, but I might start asking this. This will be my 2025 question of words, other words. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's one of those where I think I actually like that second question better a little bit.
Where are you going? Right?
Yeah, because I think everybody's like they know where they've been. They're happy with that. That's a lot more easier to describe than where you're going.
Yeah, give people something to chew on there. And then, you've had coaches. You've kind of had a great journey, and good mindset too. Perspective. What advice would you give another founder, entrepreneur that's like either in the grind, or if someone's trying to debate, do I jump in? What advice would you give them?
I think finding out where accepting wherever you're at and knowing that just like good and bad, time, it will change. So you have to assume no matter what that nothing's stagnant. So if that's
it too shall pass.
Exactly. Yes. So as long as you acknowledge that, that's number one. Don't be afraid to seek out for help. I think that's one of those big things. But two is find somebody else that's way bigger than you and attach yourself to the hip to them. That's one of those things where, they always say, what you're the sum of your 5 friends, financially or whatever, even to happiness and sadness and all this stuff. Business couldn't be any more like that. If I don't believe that right now it's the time, and it's that hard to anyway, but you don't need to be reinventing the wheel. That you just need to figure out a process to make your wheel smoother and more functioning. So watch,
somebody that you admire.
Yeah.
Like who do you feel like is doing it?
And I'm going to say this too, because this is something I practice and I have believed in, and I don't talk about it enough. I read 2 books a month, or I do Audible too. I don't like it that much, but I do a self-help book no matter what, and I do a business book. And I mean business as in something that applies directly to what I do for a living, whether SEO, marketing, Facebook, programmatic. And I will read the shitty book. I don't care if it's by the dude who has 2 reviews, but if it's up my alley, I will read the book. Expanding your knowledge. Like you will be surpassed by the next person that's more hungry than you, unless you just keep on updating, your database.
That's right.
And that's key. I think that's something that we overlook. We just get so confident in moving forward, and that we forget that there was this hunger that allowed us to get here. And
that's right. We got to keep it.
Yeah. Or there's a reason you're blocked, and maybe it's because you don't have the knowledge base or the confidence yet to push past it. And I guarantee you the right person will, or the right knowledge will help you push past it as well.
That's right. Oh, no, that's good. I tell that, I'm like, read, continue, don't stop learning.
Yep.
Because you will get blocked at some point, and you need to come out. But I think just continual learning is key, and don't be afraid.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, you just got to jump in.
You just got to jump in. Well, before we go, I know we're out of time, but before we go, how can people connect with you, learn more about you, Joey? Where do you want to point them?
Yeah. I always say, if you're interested in just chatting about something, or you got questions about, I love being outside of Media Shark. So if you're up to something and you're always curious on a question or something like that, that marketing guy on Instagram. But of course, if you're, business wise, go mediashark.com, and you can find us there.
Perfect. And we will tag all this, and this episode will be published this coming Sunday. So we're excited. And so thank you for hanging out with me and joining the podcast. And I love it. It's good to get to know you. I hope we can do some stuff outside of the Orange Whip scenario. Get our marketing teams together.
Absolutely.
And for everyone listening or watching us, thank you for joining us. This podcast episode will be available on your favorite podcast platforms. So give us a like, give us a shout, give us a review, a 5-star review on Apple. That would be fantastic, and help us grow and build a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for work in progress, because that's what we all are. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We are in 3 South Carolina cities right now, but we're expanding to other cities. Every market needs an Orange Whip. We are a one-stop content hub just for founders and an innovative digital zine. So join the community. Just go to our website, Orange Whip, WIP. That's orangewhip.com. And just an email to join. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast or sponsor us, send an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Thank y'all for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where aha meets oh shit, and we will see you again next week.